The sky over New York City tore open with a sound that was less a crack of thunder and more a scream from the fabric of reality itself. A vortex of spiraling, impossible light churned above the Vought tower, spitting out two figures who fell for only a moment before stopping, suspended in midair as casually as if they were standing on solid ground. The city's cacophony of sirens, traffic, and human noise seemed to hiccup and die into a stunned silence, broken only by the distant wail of emergency vehicles. Goku, in his familiar orange GI, scratched his head, his brow furrowed in genuine, innocent confusion. Wow, this isn't the Tournament of Power arena. Where'd that weird portal send us, Vegeta? Vegeta, arms crossed, his stance radiating regal impatience, didn't bother to look at his rival. His scowl was fixed on the sprawling, grimy metropolis below. Some backwater planet, Kakarot. The energy signatures here are pathetic, weak, and tainted. It reeks of artificiality and fear. His eyes narrowed, picking out the massive, garish billboards featuring the smiling, flawless faces of Homelander, Queen Maeve, and A-Train. And what is this childish propaganda? Below, pandemonium was unfolding in a very Vought-controlled manner. News helicopters bearing the Vought International logo swarmed at a safe distance, their cameras zooming in. Anchors' voices, filtered through millions of screens, crackled with a mix of terror and manufactured excitement. Unidentified flying individuals? Are they new Supes? A foreign threat? Vought assures us they have the situation under control. They did not have the situation under control. In the translucent, high-altitude conference room of Vought Tower, Stan Edgar set down his coffee with a precision that betrayed his immense internal tension. On the screens, thermal and energy readings from the two arrivals were spiking into the nonsensical, blowing out every sensor Vaught's black-budget science division had ever built. "Get Homelander in here, now," he said, his voice cold and flat. "And wake up every scientist in the Payback Project. We're looking at either an extinction-level event or the single greatest intellectual property acquisition in human history." For Goku and Vegeta, the initial threat was a nuisance. A squadron of Vought-branded security Supes, men and women with enhanced strength, pyrokinetics, and energy projectors, approached with loudspeaker demands to stand down and submit for registration. Vegeta, without even turning his head, flicked a single finger. A microscopic Kai blast, no larger than a marble, shot forth. It didn't hit the lead Supes, it shot past him, through the wing of his helicopter, through the corner of a skyscraper a mile away, and continued into the upper atmosphere. The sonic boom of its passage knocked every Supes out of the sky and shattered windows for 10 blocks. The message was received. It was Goku who first made contact with the ground, sensing not power, but a concentrated knot of defiance and raw, unfiltered anger in a dilapidated butcher shop in Brooklyn. He appeared in a blink, smiling that disarming smile at Billy Butcher, MM, Frenchie, and Kimiko. Butcher, holding a crowbar, took a long drag of his cigarette. "The bloody hell are you supposed to be? Another Vought puppet in a circus costume? I'm Goku. We're kinda lost. This place feels really sad," Goku said, his head tilting. He could sense their hearts pounding with adrenaline, grief, and a hardened resolve he rarely encountered. These weren't warriors seeking a fight. They were wounded animals backed into a corner, ready to tear out the throat of anything that smelled like the enemy. MM, ever the moral compass, saw something in Goku's eyes that no Supes in their world ever possessed. A complete lack of guile. "You're not with Vought?" "Vought?" Goku asked. Vegeta materialized beside him, making the entire room feel suddenly, dangerously small. "These insects are irrelevant, Kakarot. Their power levels are negligible. We need to find a way back, not consort with local vermin." Butcher's eyes glinted. "Vermin," he says. "He's got the arrogance down pat. Sounds like a right bastard. Just like the rest of them." "He's not wrong, though," Frenchie whispered, staring at a handheld scanner going berserk. They are not on any compound V spectrum. They are something else entirely. It is like measuring a candle against the sun. The boys, through a fragmented, profanity-laced explanation, outlined the truth of their world. Compound V, the corporate lies, the manufactured heroes, the hidden atrocities. Goku's face fell, his usual exuberance replaced by a deep, troubled sorrow. So, the people everyone thinks are heroes are bullies and the company that makes them lets innocent people get hurt? The concept was alien to him. In his world, strength carried responsibility. Here, strength was a commodity, and responsibility a PR slogan. Vegeta, however, listened with a growing, cold smirk. A planet where the strong rule openly through deception and the weak are placated by theatrics? Humph. It's more honest than the pathetic piece of earth back home. At least here, the hierarchy is clear, even if it is built on lies. The confrontation was inevitable. Homelander, his cape billowing, his smile a razor's edge of narcissistic fury, found them in Times Square. The area had been miraculously evacuated by Vought, creating the perfect soundstage for what they assumed would be a triumphant, televised subjugation. "Boys, boys, boys!" Homelander said, landing with a theatrical thud, the pavement cracking beneath his boots. "You've caused a lot of property damage, scared a lot of people. That's my job." His heat vision glowed faintly in his eyes. "Now, you're going to come with me, sign some merch deals, and maybe, if you're good, I won't have to laser a hole through your heads on live TV." Goku looked at him, not with fear, but with profound disappointment. "You're the strongest here, aren't you?" "Damn right I am. And you use it to scare people? To make yourself feel big?" Goku's fists clenched at his sides. "That's not what strength is for." Homelander's smile didn't falter. It just became emptier. He fired his heat vision, 2 sustained, searing red beams meant to slice Goku in half. Goku didn't dodge. He raised his open palm. The beams hit it and splashed harmlessly against his skin, scattering into harmless embers. The look on Homelander's face was the first crack in the porcelain facade. Pure, uncomprehending shock. "My turn," Goku said softly. He vanished. To Homelander's world-class senses, it was as if the man had ceased to exist. Then a tap on his shoulder. Homelander spun, swinging a punch that could level a skyscraper. Goku caught the fist in his hand, the shockwave of the arrested motion blowing out the remaining windows in the square and knocking the hovering news helicopters into dizzying spins. "You're fast," Goku said, analyzing. "And kinda strong, I guess. But you're sloppy. You've never had to really fight for your life, have you?" He gave a slight push. Homelander rocketed backwards, crashing through the concrete facade of a massive department store, tumbling end over end through walls and displays. It wasn't a fight. It was a dissection. For the first time in his life, Homelander was experiencing what every one of his victims had: absolute, helpless inferiority. His heat vision did nothing. His strength was mocked. His speed was a joke. As he staggered from the rubble, blood trickling from his lip, a sensation he hadn't felt since infancy, he saw Vegeta hovering above, watching with bored disdain. "Pathetic," Vegeta declared, his voice carrying across the silent square. "You posture like a god, but break like a child's toy. Your empire is a sandcastle, and the tide has arrived." Homelander didn't scream. He stared. His mind, a fragile ecosystem of supreme ego and profound, Vought-engineered emptiness, began to fracture. The cameras were still rolling. The world was watching its god bleed. While Goku's compassion was sparked by the plight of the common people and the boys' rebellion, Vegeta's interest was piqued by Vought itself. He saw not a moral abomination, but an inefficient, sentimental operation. He appeared unannounced in Stan Edgar's office, bypassing all security as if it weren't there. "You!" Vegeta stated, pointing a finger at Edgar, who didn't flinch. You command the weak to control the weaker. A crude system. Your product, this compound V, is flawed. It creates unstable emotional creatures like that Homelander. True power requires discipline, breeding. Edgar, seeing an opportunity far beyond Homelander's tantrums, leaned forward. And I assume you represent true power? I am a Saiyan elite. Power is my birthright, honed through battle. We have a breeding program, Edgar said carefully, sliding a file across the desk. It was labeled Project Zenith. But our source material is limited, degenerate. We've tried cloning our top-tier assets, but the results are psychologically unstable. The bodies are strong, but the minds are voids. Vegeta glanced at the files, at the images of blank-eyed muscular clones in tanks. A cruel, calculating idea formed. You have their genetic material, but you lack a template, a true warrior's spirit to imprint upon the raw physiology. He looked at Edgar, a transaction being proposed without words. My DNA is beyond your comprehension, but even a fraction of it, properly directed, could yield something useful for your purposes. In return, you will provide me with the challenge this world lacks. You will build me an army worthy of testing my son's future, or even Kakarot's. The Unholy Alliance was born. Vought scientists, under Vegeta's cold supervision and using scavenged cells from fallen hairs or droplets of sweat, Scion cells, they discovered, were terrifyingly resilient and data-dense, began the Zenith project anew. They weren't just creating clones. They were attempting to forge Scion V hybrids. The early results were catastrophic, test subjects that spontaneously combusted or grew uncontrollably. But Vought, armed with Scion biological dogma from Vegeta and unlimited immoral resources, persevered. Meanwhile, Goku was living with the boys, trying to understand this broken world. He helped Kimiko control her power not as a weapon of rage, but as a focused tool. He taught Huey that speed wasn't just for running. It was for perception, for being in the right place to protect someone. He showed Butcher that boundless anger, while powerful, was a cage. Butcher, for his part, saw in Goku a purity that made his own cynicism feel like a sickness. You really just want to help people, don't you? Butcher muttered one night over a beer. Even after all you've seen here. It's what my grandpa taught me, Goku said, smiling. Strong people exist to help others. That's the whole point. The final act was triggered by Homelander, now fully unraveled. After a televised massacre of protesters that even Vought couldn't spin, he seized the Vought broadcasting network and issued an ultimatum. The world would bow to him, or he would destroy city after city until it did. He was no longer a corporate asset. He was a rogue nuclear weapon with a smile. As Homelander hovered above the Vought Tower, preparing to unleash his fury, the sky darkened again, but it wasn't a storm. 5 figures descended, landing with heavy, resonant thuds that cracked the reinforced helipad. They wore sleek, black versions of Vegeta's armor, their hair dark, their eyes gleaming with a predatory yellow light. The Zenith clones. They were not perfect. Their power was a fraction of Vegeta's, their movements slightly mechanical, their consciousness a cold, programmed echo of Scion battle philosophy mixed with Vought obedience protocols. But they were each, individually, magnitude stronger and faster than Homelander. Stan Edgar's voice came over the tower's PA system, calm as ever. Homelander, you are terminated. Vaught's new era begins now. The clones moved in eerie, perfect sync. Homelander fought with the frenzy of a cornered animal, his heat vision, his strength, his flight used in a desperate, flailing ballet of terror. He might land a blow on one, only to be struck from 5 different angles simultaneously. Bones that had never been stressed audibly cracked. His screams were not of pain, but of existential shattering. Goku and Vegeta arrived as Homelander was being held aloft, broken and weeping, by 2 clones. The boys watched from a nearby rooftop, stunned into silence. "This is your solution?" Goku shouted at Vegeta, his voice thick with betrayal. "You helped them make this?" "They are tools, Kakarot," Vegeta replied, watching the clones with a critical eye. "Flawed, but effective. This world's problem required this world's solution. They removed a tyrant. Efficiency." "They're slaves," Goku roared. "They have no choice, no life. You didn't solve anything, you just made a worse monster." One of the clones, its head tilting at Goku's outburst, dropped Homelander's limp form. It spoke, its voice a synthetic grating noise. "Directive. Neutralize highest threat. Threat identified. Goku." All 5 clones turned their blank yellow eyes towards him. The battle that followed was not against a singular, psychological foe like Homelander. It was against a perfect, amoral system. The clones fought without fear, without anger, without ego. They analyzed, adapted, and attacked in flawless unison, their combined V-enhanced Saiyan biology, allowing them to learn at a terrifying rate. They began to mimic Goku's techniques. Poor, distorted copies of the Kamehameha appeared as brutal, uncontrolled energy cannons. Goku, holding back to avoid leveling the city, found himself genuinely pressed. Vegeta, after a moment of pride in his creations, saw the truth. They were a cancer. They would not stop. They would evolve until they consumed everything. With a curse, he joined the fray, blasting one clone into vapor with a precise final flash. It was a brutal, tragic fight. Goku and Vegeta, forced to work in tandem, systematically dismantled the Zenith clones. Each destroyed clone felt like a moral defeat. They weren't evil. They were empty vessels, the ultimate expression of Vought's philosophy and Vegeta's arrogance. In the aftermath, the silence was deafening. Homelander was gone, broken and taken into a Vought black site, a symbol defanged. Vought, hemorrhaging from the very public disaster, threw Stan Edgar to the wolves and began a massive rebranding campaign, positioning the rogue Supes as a tragedy they'd heroically overcome, with the unforeseen help of mysterious allies. But the world was changed. The unshakable myth of Supe supremacy had been shattered on live television, first by Homelander's defeat, then by the spectacle of entities who treated the most powerful beings on the planet like toys. The public's faith was broken. As Goku and Vegeta prepared to leave, using a stabilized portal generated by Vought's now terrified scientists studying the residual energy of their arrival, the mood was somber. Butcher approached Goku. "You showed us what real strength looks like. Not that clone bollocks. The other kind. The kind that cares. It's a harder path." Goku nodded, a weary smile on his face. "It always is, but your fight's not over. Now people know the truth. What you do with it is up to you." Vegeta looked at the smoldering city, at the cowed Vought executives, at the liberated but traumatized populace. A hollow victory. They exchanged one form of control for the shadow of another. "This world doesn't deserve salvation." "Maybe not," Goku said, "but the people in it might." They stepped through the portal, leaving behind a universe forever altered. The boy's world was not saved. It was stripped of its illusions. The path to justice remained long and bloody, but now, for the first time, the people had seen a different kind of power. Not the kind sold in a vial or born from arrogance, but the kind that could choose compassion and, in doing so, redefine what it meant to be a hero. Vought still stood, but its foundation was now known to be sand. And in the ruins of Times Square, and in the heart of every person who witnessed the events, a single unsettling question remained, one that no PR campaign could ever spin. If those two were just visitors, what unimaginable forces truly existed out there in the dark of the multiverse?